real rigging was the collusion between social media companies and the government to suppress information that would have altered the effect of the election.
Yep.
That's legitimate.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was like direct interference, and it was aided and abetted by a lot of former intelligence officials, and by the current administration. Tons of pressure on censorship coming from this the current administration and all their kind of arms of the censorship apparatus.
You have your hands in the tech community.
Yeah.
You have your fingers in all that jazz.
Yeah.
Like, what was the general attitude about all that stuff when it was revealed? How did people, how did your peers respond to that?
I think anybody in social media, the internet companies knew it. So I think it was pretty widely understood. I mean, look, there's nothing that happened at Twitter in the Twitter files that wasn't happening all the other companies, right? And so it's a consistent pattern. If you got the YouTube files, they would look exactly the same. And of course, we should get the YouTube files,
sure.
right? And now we probably will now with this new administration is probably going to carve all this stuff open. But look, it was a pattern. And then look, the companies bear a lot of responsibility, and the people in the companies made a lot of, I think, bad judgment calls. But the government, the Biden White House was directly exerting censorship pressure on American companies to censor American citizens, which I think, by the way, is just flatly illegal. Like, I think is actually subject to criminal charges. Like, I think there are people with criminal liability who were involved in this. So there was that. There were also members of Congress doing the same thing, which is also illegal. And then there was a lot of funding of outside third-party groups that were bringing a lot of pressure down on censorship.
Yeah.
And just an example of that is there's a unit at Stanford, right next door, to us that, was the Internet Censorship Unit that was funded by the U.S. government.
Wow.
And exerted tremendous pressure on the companies to censor. And it was very effective at doing so.
Does it smell like sulfur when you walk those halls?
It is very dark and grim. This whole thing is very bad. And so
Stanford.
Oh yeah, Stanford. Stanford, by the way, another unit like that at Harvard. A bunch of universities got pulled into this. A lot of NGOs and nonprofits got pulled into this. And so the Twitter files showed us kind of the basic roadmap. And then there's this thing called the Weaponization Committee that Congressman Jordan is running that has also revealed a lot of this. But I would imagine the new Trump administration is going to come in and carve all that wide open. And I know that there are people being appointed to senior positions who are very determined to do that.
This episode is brought to you by Blinds.com. You probably think custom window coverings are just to keep the neighbors from staring in, right? But here's the thing. They also make your place look badass and can help you save on utility bills. With Blinds.com, it's easy to get top quality window treatments and service, and it's 100% online. No hidden fees, no weird markups like you'd get in a showroom, and their Black Friday deals are already live. So there's no need to wait for some pushy salesperson to give you an insane quote. With Blinds.com, you can do a free virtual consultation with one of their award-winning designers when you have the time. They'll send you samples, quick and easy and free. Then you can either go full DIY or let Blinds.com handle everything from measuring to installation. These guys have covered over 25 million windows, all backed with 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can't lose. So head to Blinds.com now and grab those Black Friday deals all month long. Use the code Rogan for $50 off when you spend $500 or more. Limited time offer. Rules and restrictions apply. See Blinds.com for details. One of the things that I found really kind of shocking was when they revealed how much money the Democrats had spent on the election and how much money was spent on activist groups.
Yeah, right.
It's like more than $100 million, right?
Yeah, there's extensive government funding of politically oriented NGOs.
Yeah,
NGO is one of those great terms, like non-governmental organization. All right, like what the hell is that?
Right. What is that? Tell me. I don't know.
Well, it's sort of a charity, but what it really sort of, but most of the time it's a political entity. It's an entity with a political agenda. But then it's funded by the government in a very large percentage of cases, including the NGOs in the censorship complex, like the government grants. National Science Foundation grants, like direct State Department grants, right? Direct money. And then, now you've got an NGO funded by the government. Well, that's not an NGO. Right. That's a GO.
Right.
Right. And then you've got a conspiracy, like with censorship, then you have a conspiracy because you've got government officials using government money to fund what look like private organizations that aren't. And then what happens is the government outsources to these NGOs the things that it's not legally allowed to do.
Like what?
Like censorship.
Okay.
Like violation of First Amendment rights. Right. The government. So what they always say is the First Amendment only applies to the government. The First Amendment says because the government cannot censor American citizens. And so what they do is, if you want to censor American citizens in the government, if you're smart, you don't do that. What you do is you fund an outside organization and then you have them do it.
Boy.
Right. And that's what's been happening. Right. And
that's like hiring a hitman. Like, it's not okay to murder someone, but you can hire someone to murder someone and then you're clean.
Yeah. And if you want to solve a murder, it's not enough to find out who the hitman was. You have to find out who paid the hitman. Right.
Right.
You want to work your way up the chain. And so a lot of this traces into the White House. The best defense the companies have is that a lot of this happened under coercion, right? Because when the government puts pressure on you, like it might be a phone call, it might be a letter, it might be the threat of an investigation, it might be a subpoena, it could take many forms. But when the government does that, it carries, that's a very powerful message. It's like, it's like a message from a mob boss, right? It's like, don't you want to do me a favor? It's like, yes, Mr. Gambino, I do, right? Like, I like my corner store. I'd like it to not catch on fire tonight, right? And so there's this overwhelming hammer blow of pressure that comes in. And by the way, even when the government doesn't talk to you directly, if they're funding the organization that is talking to you, then it's very clear what's happening. And so you come under incredible pressure. And so the whole kind of chain, this whole chain of governments, activists, universities, and companies was corrupted. And then on top of that, people in the companies in a lot of cases made a lot of decisions that I think they're probably increasingly starting to regret.
What was confusing to me was that the government spent so much money on these activist groups during the election, and I didn't understand like what purpose that would serve. Like what function would it serve to spend all this money on these activist groups that already support you, supposedly?
Yeah.
Like, are you bribing them to support you? Are you paying them to go on talk shows and consistently repeat the government's message, the current administration's message? Like, what would be the function of that?
So I think in some cases it's just pay to play, right? So for as an example, we know that Kamala's campaign paid certain on-air personalities, and then there were which were, it's your point, people were very supportive of Kamala, who then gave her interviews that went really well. And so I think in some cases you just have straight pay to play. That's just how that system works. It's just expected. And then I think you have other organizations like these NGOs and others, activist groups, where they're actually they actually do field activities, right? And so there's maybe there's a get out the vote component, or there's social media influence downstream component, or some other kind of field activity that's happening in support of the election.
I just didn't think that they pay, like, when it's still unclear whether or not celebrities got paid to endorse her.
Right.
Right? Have you?
They've mixed it up because there's like Oprah said, her production company was paid to put on the production, but she was not paid for the interview.
Yeah, whatever.
But it was $2 million.
$2.5 million. It was initially listed as $1 million, and it turned out it was 2.5.
Right. And so,
but like, if I have a production company,
right,
and my production company gets paid $2.5 million to endorse Trump.
Right.
And then I go, I didn't get any of that money.
Right.
People are like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Of course you got, it's your company. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And also, how much does it cost to do an event?
Yes.
How does it cost $2.5 million to put on an event? Like, are you feeding people gold sandwiches? Like, what are you doing? Like, how is that possible?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then because the fact that it's deliberately obfuscated, of course, is a clue as to
I just
what's
thought
happening.
The really bizarre one was the allegations, and I'd say unsubstantiated allegations. It's been alleged that Beyonce got $10 million, and Lizzo got $3 million. Eminem got $1.8 million. Like, really?
Yeah. I think if you just published all these numbers, these celebrities would all get so mad at each other that then you would learn everything. It's
Eminem got short.
Right,
he got shorted.
Right. Lizzo's furious right now, right?
Yeah.
Lizzo's probably listening to this right now being like, what?
Well, I wonder if Lizzo's like, I didn't get shit. I would say it. But why haven't they said it? Like, Beyonce has been mum about the whole thing. I think I would probably say, like, I didn't get any money to do that.
Yeah.
But that was a weird one, too, because a lot of people thought Beyonce was going to do a concert.
Right.
And she just went out there and talked. And everybody's like, what the fuck? Because they all came to see a free Beyonce concert.
Yes.
And then she just said, I want to support Kamala Harris. And everybody's like, good. Now, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it, right? Come on. We love your songs.
Yes.
That's what we're here for.
Yes.
I just didn't think that it was even possible that I didn't think a candidate would ever pay for an endorsement.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it was even alleged.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the even stinkier version, arguably, which is all the social media influencer campaigns now. There's tremendous amount of payola.
That's for sure.
Right.
Because I know people personally who were approached multiple times.
Yeah.
And offered a substantial amount of money to post things in support of Harris.
Yeah. And like I'm pro capitalism and I'm happy for them that they get paid, but like maybe we should know. Like,
yeah, that seems like something you should absolutely have to disclose. It should be like say if I was going to do an ad for, whatever, a certain coffee company, Black Rifle Coffee, and I did it on my Instagram, I'd have to say ad. I have to say this is an ad.
Yeah.
It's a paid ad.
Yeah.
And that's part of the thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.